The next unique feature of the new decision therapy is testing both eyes in front of the mirror. So we test left eye, right eye. Can you maybe explain what is the difference and what it means when we have one of the eyes or both eyes weak in terms of muscular kinesiology testing?
Yeah, so there are energy pathways that are reaching all sorts of areas of the body through the eyes. And this is one thing that I find very interesting about new decision therapy, that there is a distinction around which eye a client needs to focus in while they're exploring and identifying a particular trauma, and the actual release of the trauma needs to happen while they're focusing specifically in one eye or the other, and the assessment will indicate which eye that needs to be. Yeah, and there's an overall guideline that helps the practitioner in the beginning, but there are no hard and fast rules. The only rule is follow the wisdom of the body, whatever shows up through the assessment in relationship to that client. Pay attention to that. So we don't try to slot the client into a template, but we use the template simply as a guideline to give us a starting point so that we know how to guide the client. But the client's own body wisdom will determine in the end which eye needs to be focused in and whether that eye is related to same sex or opposite sex. So more often than not, let's say, for instance, I have a female standing in the mirror, and there is weakness in the right eye, and there's weakness on these points, and we find that through the assessment process, we find there's a relationship between the weaknesses here and the weaknesses in the right eye. Then I might start in the inquired process of asking, who their ex-partners were, are they in a relationship now, and start from there, because opposite sex is usually right eye, but it doesn't always show up that way. It's not always that way. So, but it's a starting point. And then if we find indeed that there are opposite sex relationships that are connected to those weaknesses, then we can go further. And then more often than not, same sex will show up in this eye. So if it's a female, then they would be females showing up in the left eye. If the client is a male, then it would be males showing up in the left eye. Right?
Now, we also do cross-correlational, like match-up, when we test eyes together with points. And that gives additional information, as I remember from training, additional information about, and of course from students as well, which I found correctly, like when there is weak eye and weak point, and we check them together, we get a strong response, because negative times negative gives positive result.
Right, it's basically saying, oh yes, there is something important here that we need to address, and the weakness in the right eye is related to this material that we're finding in the meridian points on the body. And so yes, this is where the real heart of the process begins, is when we start to identify those matchups and put attention on them.